Dangerous and a threat to the middle class. That's how President Obama describes income inequality, an issue he has vowed to tackle in his second term. And a new CNN ORC poll shows the majority of Americans think it's time for Washington to step up. 66% say the government should work to substantially reduce the gap between the rich and poor. For younger Americans, the challenge is big, with sky-high college costs and paychecks that don't go as far as they had for previous generations. In an op-ed for CNN.com, I wrote about that. Quote, an article in the New York Times on September 18, 1987 reported the average wage for an automaker was $13.50 an hour. In today's dollars, that's $28.47. More than 2 decades later, thanks to the 2008 recession and the erosion of union power, entry-level unionized auto workers were paid between $14 and $17 an hour, while veteran workers earned between $28 and $38 an hour, the same as they earned in 1987. With me to talk about this, Marc Lamont Hill, CNN political commentator and host for HuffPost Live, and Stephen Moore, a Wall Street Journal contributor and chief economist for the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to both of you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here.
It kind of irritates me when successful, wealthy Americans say they worked hard to get where they are and don't seem to acknowledge they grew up in a much healthier economy. Stephen, it's as if they're intimating that if you can't make it up the ladder, you got to be lazy.
Well, you know, Carol, I did read your excellent piece on CNN.com, and I'll say this, I agreed with some of it, but not all of it. And one of the points that you made was that there's a lot of luck involved in being successful, and that's actually true. You know, I wanted to be a professional basketball player, but I'm only 5'11", and that's not fair, right? That Kareem Jabbar is 7 feet tall. I mean, look, my point is there's a lot of luck in life, no question about it, but there's an old saying that is a truism that luck is where preparation meets hard work. And I think when you look at America today, I still believe, Carol, and I think you do too, the American dream is alive and well, that people who do work hard and do the right things and wait to have kids till they're married, stay in school, don't do drugs, you have a high probability of not being in poverty if you do those kinds of things, and you may even be really successful in the next Bill Gates.
Still, Mark, I grew up at the time in the 80s, right, when college costs were nowhere near as expensive as they are now. And you know, my father was able to get a job in the steel mill and make a decent wage. I was lucky to grow up in that time, and I was lucky enough to make it. And that's what I was trying to say, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's exactly right. And that kind of luck you can't plan. You actually have a better chance of making the NBA than being the next Bill Gates in this economic environment. And the large reason is because even if you work hard every day, the month still lasts longer than your money. And that has nothing to do with work ethic. It has nothing to do with a puritanical ethic. It has to do with the labor market that simply doesn't afford hard work for everyday people. If you're at the top of the social tier, your hard work is rewarded. Your opportunity is expanded. If you're at the bottom of the social ladder, it's not. We have to reimagine tax policy. We have to reimagine not just a minimum wage, but a living wage so that people who do the things that he just talked about will be able to be rewarded in the way that wealthy people are.
And Stephen, a new CNN ORC poll out shows that most Americans think Republican policies favor the rich, a whopping 69%. That's compared to 30% for Democrats. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I bring this up because, you know, we talk a lot about the minimum wage. Republicans are very against the minimum wage going up. Democrats are for it. So what's going to happen in light of the way most people feel in this country, whether they're Democrat or Republican?
Well, look, I consider myself a Republican most of the time, and I don't feel like the policies that I espouse are to benefit the rich. What I want, and I think most Americans want, are policies that try to make everyone richer. And I think that the problem with many of the Democrats that I deal with in Washington is they think that the goal is to make the rich poorer, not to make the poor richer. Now, on this issue of minimum wage, because we're going to have a big debate on this in the months ahead, I'm very strongly against raising the minimum wage, and for this reason, Carol. My first job, and I'll bet your first job, was working for the minimum wage back at, I'll let you know how old I was. I was earning $2.15 an hour. But you know, that first job was one of the most important jobs that I ever had. You learn work skills, you learn to show up for work on time, you learn how to run a cash register. And my worry is, if you raise the minimum wage and you eliminate some of those starter jobs, then you don't get the second job and third job and fourth job. By the way, one other quick thing.
But here's the problem.
You want to raise the incomes of people, get rid of Obamacare, as CBO just showed yesterday, because we're creating a part-time nation.
All right, Mark, go ahead.
Here's Here's the problem. We tend to infantilize poor people. Yes, my first job paid $4.15 an hour. I was 14 years old and I worked as hard as I could for a crap job. The problem is there are people who are 28 years old and 35 years old in this labor market who are still taking those first jobs. This isn't some 16-year-old kid in the suburbs, learning the value of hard work. This is a grown person with children trying to make ends meet, and they can't because we have these same policies and these same wages for them. We need to raise the minimum wage and the living wage so that people can pay their bills. Now, I would agree with many economists and many Republicans, quite frankly, who say that if we raise it too much, we make it hard to keep small businesses open. We make it hard to support the economy. But there is a sweet spot where we can raise minimum wages so that people can pay their bills and people will actually reinvest in the economy because they'll be spending more, but without compromising or crippling the bigger companies. We can find that spot, but I don't buy the argument that, we need to keep poor people's wages low so they can learn the value of working hard. I think that's somewhat condescending.
Yeah, because the manufacturing jobs don't exist like they did in the past, Stephen, and they don't pay as well. So if you have a high school education, you're kind of stuck.
Well, you know what? I disagree with you, Carol. I mean, I wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal this weekend about what's happening in Michigan outside of Detroit, where there's a real economic revival going on, and it's being led by manufacturing. We have a manufacturing renaissance going on in this country. Now, what's interesting is that it's less and less unionized. I disagreed with your statement that unions are what created these industries. I would make the case that, in fact, in the steel industry and the auto industry and other industries, unions actually destroyed those industries, and now they're coming back non-unionized in states like Tennessee and Texas and Florida.
Well, I'm only saying that, and I don't agree with everything the unions did, because I think some of the things unions did was harmful. I'm saying that unions certainly made wages go up. And Mark, I'll pose this question to you. If you're working in a low-wage job at a non-union shop, who's going to fight for you to raise wages? At the present time, nobody, right?
Well, that's exactly right. You become more expendable, you become disposable, your labor is getting de-skilled so that you're less specialized, so that they don't have to pay you as much. And when you fight or push back, they get rid of you. And as we see, for example, big box retailers take over the mom and pop shops, we see that happening. When we see auto industries come back de-unionized, when we see teaching forces come back de-unionized, what we see is workers working for longer hours, for less money, with less safe conditions, and less incentive to stay, and more incentive to be quiet and continue to be exploited. This is a dangerous environment. Unions aren't perfect. No one is perfect. But one thing we know that is supremely imperfect is unregulated, deregulated, unchecked capitalism. When that happens at this moment, we all are compromised.
Thanks for the great conversation. I sure appreciate it. Stephen Moore, Mark Lamont Hill, thanks so much for
Carol.
being here.
Take
If
care.
you want to read more about this topic, check out